third.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I think you're up first, so
Yeah.
just display show. You're ready to go. Sweet.
Right. Good. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Bellingham City Council, our regular meeting tonight, March 13th. I'd like to make a few announcements. First of all, the annual Lake Whatcom Joint Councils and Commission meeting will take place Wednesday, March 29th this year at 6:30 here in the City Council chambers. That's a joint meeting of the City Council, the County Council, and the Commissioners of the Water and Sewer District, and it's about Lake Whatcom. Would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
April Barker.
Here.
Dan Hamill.
Here.
Gene Knutson.
Here.
Michael Lillequist.
Here.
Roxanne Murphy.
Here.
Pinky Vargas.
Here.
Terry Borneman.
Here.
Great. We'll move into our first thing, which will be a brief presentation on Green Road certification. Then we'll have our 15-minute public comment period. Ted, you want to start?
Yes, thank you, Ted Carlson, Public Works Department. We're pleased to have Jerilee Anderson here today. She's the Executive Director of the Green Roads Certification Program. And as the Council is aware, Bellingham has constructed several transportation projects, other projects that have been certified by Green Roads, really outlining some of the sustainability practices that are throughout all of our documents, supported by policy direction from the Council. I'm just going to go ahead and turn it right over to Fritz, and he'll introduce Jerilee and take us through a presentation.
Thanks, Ted. Freeman Anthony, Public Works. And today we are here to basically present the certification award for 25th Street. It's a project we did a couple years ago. Not only is Jerilee here from the Green Roads Foundation to present that award to Council, we also have the design team, both city staff, myself and Craig, and Tuttle Engineering and Management who are here. So we'll do some photo ops at the end of this. I would like to say strategically planned for the week of St. Paddy's Day. I like to see the green up there because that's going to work very well with the whole thing we're doing. I'm going to let Jerilee come up and just tell you a little bit about Green Roads. I think folks do know about it, but kind of an update, and then I'll talk to you about kind of what we're doing in Public Works, and then Craig will talk to you about the actual certification. So I'm just going to leave that there.
Good evening, Council. Thank you so much for your time tonight. My name is Jerilee Anderson. I'm the Executive Director of Green Roads Foundation. And it has been our pleasure as Green Roads to collaborate with the City of Bellingham's Public Works team and also the project team. And it is our honor today to present the city's 7th certification award for the silver-rated 25th Street Pedestrian and Bicycle Improvements Project, and also recognize other efforts by the Public Works team to integrate green into standard practice, which I believe Freeman Anthony will tell a little bit more about. And the 25th Street Pedestrian and Bicycle Improvement Project is not your typical rehabilitation project for a street, so Craig will give some more details on that in just a moment, and I get the fun stuff. So the project is actually really sort of a pride in for the city as well as for Green Roads. It's one of the it's basically a signature project for Green Roads. Really represents what our organization supports and also is very much in alignment with the city's strategic values. The project has employed a reuse strategy, just a couple highlights here, that resulted in a reported 89% reuse of existing pavement, so that saves money. 71% recycled and reclaimed content, and approximately 1,200 tons of technology called warm mix asphalt pavement, which has lower emissions when you pave it, and it's a little bit healthier for the workers that are placing it as well, and also saves fuel at the plant. These strategies combine to demonstrate an impact of 18% reduced energy footprint for the road, 15% lower carbon footprint, and no cost or quality impacts to the city from the use of the pavement technology. And of course, as part of its scope, it dramatically improved safe access to the university for pedestrian, bicycle, and transit, and true to form for Bellingham, put environmental quality front and center. The project's focus on stormwater management is hard to miss with its enormous and beautifully landscaped bioswale and porous concrete sidewalks. So a lot of cool things. Altogether, these features earned the city its highest Green Road score to date, and is definitely a signature of your commitment to sustainability performance. A little bit about Green Roads. So Green Roads International is an independent 501c3 nonprofit corporation which advances sustainability education and initiatives for transportation infrastructure. We developed the Green Roads rating system back in as early as 2006, and we started a nonprofit in 2010. So we're currently working with over $20 billion of transportation projects across the world in 11 states and 8 different countries, with 37 certified, 7 of which are in Bellingham, and more than 100 are registered. So one of actually the first project that we've ever certified, since Bellingham was an early adopter of our program, was the Meter Kansas Ellis Trail project. And that project actually turned 5 years old this February. It turned out the potties in the pavement turned out to be a really fine idea. And that was the last time I had the honor to present to council. So with that, I think I'll transfer this over. Thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate the support from the city. And we're looking forward to what's next for the future.
So Jerry touched on some awesome history that we had with Green Roads. I'm going to touch on a few more. We did do our first pilot project was the North Shore Drive, the porous concrete bike lanes. So that was when we first kind of got savvy with the program. As Jerry noted, Meter Kansas Ellis was the first ever certified project. We're actually in a very tight race with Oak Harbor to reach that certification. We were lucky enough to get there first. In Meter Kansas Ellis, that was our first utilization of recycled concrete as aggregate in our sidewalks, and I wanted to kind of do an update. We've now used that mix in over 10 projects. That includes like the Champion water main project recently, Alabama. We've worked with WashDOT to get them to accept that material. We've done a lot of testing, our own work in-house to get compression tests and everything to make sure it passes muster. And because of that, we've diverted over 1,000 tons of waste concrete from landfill. So I've been keeping track, and it was just only with last year's Navucki project that we actually kind of crossed that 1,000-ton threshold, but we're really excited. We keep doing it. Most of the engineers are putting it in as far as daily practice, and to me, that's a really big thing, because that's leaving mountains intact, because we can reuse some of this concrete that we've already purchased anyways. And then one note on there, Ted has on his desk the Pioneer Award, which was given to us in 2014, and that's when we had a whole lot of projects in the hopper. And so subsequently we've got some of those through the process. The other great thing that we've done recently, and I think you folks have seen this probably more than you'd like to, was the comp plan update, especially the transportation section and policy T24. It was great working with planning and development as far as getting the support to put something in there to say that when we do our larger corridor retrofits, let's take a really hard look at getting all those green roads certified, because that really allows us to just benchmark our practices and be consistent through our road projects as trying to target that level of sustainability, be it recycled materials or interconnectivity between other areas, use of warm mix, retaining existing pavement and all that stuff, native landscaping and all the things that go along with that. So there are other ones out there that have resolutions. They have, sort of, and that's like Tacoma, for instance. They put a nod towards green roads, but very few have put it in their comp plan. And so that is a really big deal. And I want you guys to be aware that it was really great that you moved that through and you did that work. So big kudos there, because it's hard to find it in the comp plan, and that's really where it needs to be. So with that, I will conclude and let Craig talk a little bit about the project we're here today. Have you guys all been down there? 25th? It's awesome. Thank you.
Hi, Craig Mueller, Public Works Engineer, and it's kind of odd to be up here and not have to describe a project that you've already seen. It was primarily a sidewalk, multimodal, and stormwater project that was paid for by Transportation Benefit District funding, so all local funds. Extensive corridor rebuilt. There was bike lanes, sidewalk, very large stormwater treatment facility that was all planted with native vegetation, warm mix asphalt, improved transit and student access. There is Happy Valley Elementary School there. There's Seaholm High School, as well as Western Washington University and high-density housing. It also improved the access to several, to at least two of the bus stops there. Pre-project photos, go through this really quickly. It was a two-lane road, narrow, no sidewalks, no bike lanes, no curb and gutter. You can see in the lower left-hand corner the catch basin, a lot of sediment getting in there. Post-project, placing of the warm mix asphalt, some of the landscaping, the sidewalk in the upper right-hand corner that was to form an ADA accessible ramp. And the lower right-hand corner, you can see the stormwater facility. Just, I always think these are neat. Just before and after, you can see the house in them. You've now got bike lanes. You've got wide sidewalks, landscaping. It's just a completely different look to that area. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Craig.
Do you have any questions?
So, if I could get Council President Lillquist to come down and receive the award, and we'll take some pictures of all you folks in the background. The green is nice. I really like it. I thought Pinky might, make an adjustment for one day, but no. So, and you're wearing green. Yes, of course.
And it's green.
Of course, hands off, hands off. Okay.
Last time Harry got it.
Okay, so can you stand just right over there?
Is this your family, Craig? Did your family come with you? No. No, okay.
John Tuttle is the design engineer.
You'll be dragging them down for photo op shortly. So congratulations, City of Bellingham, award number 7. Michael, drop number a little bit, sorry. You guys want to come down? Yeah, I think you guys should pass that around and just send it back to Ted.
Okay, send back to Ted.
Yes, thanks again for your time. Happy St. Patty's Day.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful way to start our meeting. And congratulations to the Public Works staff, Ted, Freeman. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, we'll now move into our 15-minute public comment period. During the public comment period, members of the public will have 3 minutes each to speak to the City Council on a topic of their choosing. The first name I have in here is Mr. Dick Conboy, followed by Larry Sorensen. Dick.
Good evening. I'm Dick Conboy. I live here in Bellingham on South 46th Street. I'm here this evening to talk about public banking and asking the council to look into it as something that Bellingham might want to adopt. I've given everybody a hard copy of an email that I had sent you last Friday. It also went to the mayor and to all the department heads because everybody's got some skin in this game, I think. First of all, for people who don't know what public banking is, people here in the audience and those at home, it's a bank which is created by an entity such as a city or a state in which the city or state deposits its revenues, tax revenues, real estate taxes, and any other revenues it gets. And it uses this as a basis to capitalize a bank from which it can then borrow, and also it can also loan to businesses, small businesses or businesses in the area, agriculture, you name it. And it can do it at a much lower interest rate. And the interest earned comes back to the bank, and it comes back to the people, because the bank is really the people's bank. As you can see by this map, there's quite a bit of interest across the nation. Unfortunately, right now, only North Dakota and the Chickasaw Nation in Oklahoma have public banks. But there's really no reason why we can't do it. Washington state statutes are basically silent on the matter, and Washington State Senator Hasagawa has, over the last 8 or 9 years, introduced a bill to get a state bank. However, it dies in committee because of the bank lobby. I guess they don't like competition. The advantages of a state bank or a public bank are the citizen has control. There are no shareholders except for the people who live in the area, the taxpayers. Low interest rates, which I have already mentioned. It's attractive to businesses. We want to attract businesses here to Bellingham to work, offer them low interest loans. The interest, as I said, returns to the citizens. You don't have to worry about divesting because a public bank will put its money where it wants to in industries that favor the environment and will not pollute. And you're also protected from commercial bank collapses. If you take a look at the commercial banks, they're heavily leveraged by these bad loans, and for that matter, if they collapse, then your money goes to recapitalize them. So I'd like to ask you to consider this. I'm going to be presenting it to the Whatcom County Council next week.
Thank you, Dick.
And already gave it to Riley Sweeney for Ferndale.
Thank you, Dick. Next up will be Mr. Larry Sorensen, followed by Cassandra Saunders.
When you took your seat on this council, you took a solemn oath. And it may not be worded correctly.
Sir, I'm sorry, Larry, the microphone maybe is closer to your mouth. Could you move the microphone also closer to your mouth? And then, I'm sorry, Larry, go ahead and state your name and where you live and start again.
Larry Sorensen, Bellingham.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Thank you, sir.
We'll try it again.
you took an oath when you got your seat on the city council. You were going to support the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the state of Washington and all local ordinances, and that you would faithfully and impartially perform and discharge the duties of the office according to law. I might remind you that under U.S. Code 1334, any person who knowingly that an illegal person or person remains in the United States in violation of the law, conceals, harbors, or gives sanctuary to that person, or shields that person, shall be fined under Title 18 and imprisoned for not more than 10 years. I'm sure that you worked very closely with the lawyers here in this city to try not to break the law, but at least you circumvented the law. And it seems to me that you broke that solemn oath. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
One other thing. Is it possible to lower the speed limit on Electric Avenue to 25 miles an hour to maybe save the lives of a few deer?
Okay, sir, thank you very much. Next, Cassandra Saunders, followed by Kerry Kovaleski. You can push that in, so you know. The drawer. We're having the public do extra duty tonight. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Cassandra Saunders. Sorry, got married last year, still getting used to the last name change. And I live here in Bellingham. So my concerns that I brought today are public safety concerns, particularly with what happened, incident last night. As a mother within the community, sorry. I dropped my sons off a week ago at the same spot where the shooting took place, and so of course it probably triggered something for me. Anyway, I'm really concerned about the de-escalation techniques that are being handled by obviously this is a national crisis, and you didn't start the timer. Don't give me more time than so I'm very nervous. So I'm really concerned about the de-escalation techniques that are being used. I did call the Lieutenant Almer this afternoon, and of course what I would expect is he would take a very defensive approach, and that I believe there tends to be a real brotherhood within the police system, and I understand the need to protect the people who are here to protect us, but I really feel that maybe there were other de-escalation techniques that could have taken place. It's happening in other countries where people can use de-escalation techniques without the use of guns. And when I did post this on Facebook, today I got a lot of heck for that, and it was because somehow if you say you don't agree with what had happened, that you disagree with the police, or that you are for people getting stabbed, which obviously does not make any sense at all. But my point is that these people are a part of our community, and I feel like a lot of the homelessness and the poverty, these people affect our city, and the way that people's safety issues are being affected. Businesses are being affected, and I wonder how long we as a community, look at all the people here that are so bright and intelligent and passionate, and I think, why can't us as a community come together to try to help these people so that they have the resources that they need? And I know that this is a multifaceted subject. I know that there are state organizations that are supposed to step in, but I just wonder as a community, as city members, what we can do to help protect one another, and also that these people are sick. You know, they're mentally ill, and I feel like, you know, I'm talking about a lot of things, but, you know, we're still in the business of punishing mentally ill people. And really, on a national level, we're really not away from that. We still do punish people who are mentally ill. And I just feel that there could have been other strategies, other techniques that could have happened. That person, the police officer that shot that person has to live with their, you know, that was something they did, and they have to decide, is there anything else that I could have done? And that's kind of where I'm standing. I'm thinking, is there anything else that could have done? So if anyone knows, I don't know who to call, I don't know who to talk to about putting together a group of people so that we're not so apathetic and we can make a change, a positive change in our community. So I'm just begging you to give me some answers, please. Thanks.
Thank you, Cassandra. Next up will be Carrie Kovaleski, followed by Riley Sweeney. And Cassandra, you probably might be your first time here. This is a time when the City Council listens. We don't respond. I know you're asking kind of rhetorically, but that's why there's no response from us up here right now. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Carrie. I live in Bellingham. On February 23rd, Governor Inslee ordered his agencies not to cooperate with Homeland Security when the feds ask for an illegal alien to be detained. Inslee will obey warrants, but will not allow requests for detainers. On February 28th, a Washington state trooper is under investigation because he informed ICE about an illegal alien convicted felon. The trooper was responding to a collision on I-5 in Tacoma. One of the drivers involved was Armando Chavez. A standard check on his driver's license revealed a warning from ICE. Chavez was an illegal immigrant convicted of felony drug trafficking and deported 4 times. The trooper called ICE, who arrested Chavez at the scene, and because of this, is under investigation by his own department for possibly violating policy. Kyle Moore, the Washington State Patrol spokesman, said, "Our troopers are not federal immigration officials, and they are there to protect the roadways to ensure everyone on the roadways are safe." Why should this be a problem? All the trooper did was call ICE to ensure our safety on the roadways from criminal illegal aliens. Sandra Duran, a 42-year-old mother, was killed in a car wreck in LA by an illegal immigrant named Oswaldo Alvarez while drunk. It was not his first time driving drunk. He had been deported 5 times, arrested 20 times, with multiple felony convictions. He didn't have a current warrant out, but if ICE knew where he was, they would have put out a detainer. The detainer wouldn't have been honored by Inslee if this occurred in our state. This is just one example of many across the U.S. with sanctuary cities and immigration enforcement policies. Steve Pomper, a retired Seattle police officer said, quote, "The good guys feel like the bad guys because either they are not getting support from the above or people are not coming to their defense." ICE usually doesn't issue arrest warrants because deportations are an administrative process, not something to tie up in criminal courts. Steve O'Ban, a Washington state senator, said, and I quote, "I'm concerned that this administrative investigation of this trooper will have a chilling effect not just on this trooper, but on other troopers and law enforcement personnel," unquote. This trooper was just doing his job based on a mandate from the president to remove criminal illegal aliens. This trooper was also doing the same job that law enforcement officials across this country do every day. 1.4 million times in 2015, cops just like this trooper called into ICE and said they have this person. I want you to run his name. In 2014, over 112,000 ICE agents went out to the scene like this one in Tacoma and made arrests. Where does this city stand? Do you or don't you support Governor Inslee? I certainly hope it's the latter.
Thank you, Carrie. Next up, Riley Sweeney, followed by Galen Hertz. And please state your name and what city you live in.
All right, pass that along. Good evening, everyone. My name's Riley Sweeney, and I'm from the faraway and distant land of Ferndale. You may find it just on the other side of Bakerview. I'm coming to talk to you about some of the great things that we're doing up in Ferndale. and talk to you about some of our recreational activities. So some of you have already had the pleasure to visit Star Park. For those of you who haven't heard about it, last year we really rallied the community and built the largest playground in Whatcom County in 6 days with 2,200 volunteers, 300 partner organizations all participated, and it was a fantastic event. If you haven't been up there, I really suggest you go up. Even if you're a big kid like me, it's a lot of fun. So this year, we're building on our success from Star Park to launch a whole slate of recreational activities, and I know that your Parks Department puts on some fantastic recreational activities, and I do not want to detract from the good stuff that you guys are doing, but rather mention some of the fun stuff we're doing in case you want to share and share alike. I assume that's the phrase here at the City Council. Yeah, that's right, we got communism jokes. It's light this evening. So, this summer, we're doing all sorts of activities. We're doing glow-in-the-dark croquet in April. We're doing bird watching on the Nooksack in May. We're having an anniversary celebration in June for Star Park because every good playground deserves a birthday party. And my personal favorite, we're doing the Great Ferndale Treasure Hunt, hashtag Ferndale Treasure, in which we're doing a citywide scavenger hunt. It's open to all participants. All these events are open whether you live in Ferndale or not. We just want you to come out and have some fun. So from one city to another, I just wanted to say, come out and play.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Last up will be Galen Hertz, and then we'll go on with our city council meeting.
Okay, hard to follow that. My name's Galen. I live in Bellingham, and I'm the Western Washington University Associated Students Local Issues Coordinator. I want to talk today about housing and share something that I think deserves more public research and scrutiny. An article came out in late January from the National Association of Realtors titled, "Where are Global Buyers Searching in the United States?" The top U.S. cities for foreign real estate buyers in order were, and I'll give you a hint, one is unlike the others: Miami, Los Angeles, Bellingham, Kaluhi, Hawaii, New York City, urban Honolulu, Orlando, Tampa, Phoenix, Houston. From what I can tell, our ranking on this list jumped near the top around October 2015. We weren't even in the top 34 cities in the report from a year earlier. I don't know exactly what to make of this, but I think it has a connection to the fact that home values rose around 12% last year, which is close to the highest in the country. Our rents are also rising. To expand on this, according to the Knight Frank survey, a global real estate firm, the ultra high net worth individuals, which is like a term meaning that the people have assets of over $30 million, have 32% of their assets invested in property. Residential property was the preferred type, according to 81% of Wealth Advisor respondents. We saw this play out in Vancouver, BC's housing crisis. In a Bellingham Business Journal article, Bliss Goldstein, a Bellingham Windermere real estate agent, said, "Foreign investors are looking for a place to park their cash. It's almost like they're using Canadian real estate as a bank. Put it in there and watch your net worth grow." To try to solve this, the Premier of BC instituted a 15% foreign homebuyers tax that doesn't apply to foreign homebuyers living, working, and paying taxes in BC. Whether Bellingham homes are being used as investment products for the super wealthy deserves more research and scrutiny by the public, press, and the city. When I moved here, I thought Bellingham attracts people who value community and enjoying the outdoors more than money. The cost of living here was somewhat higher than the wages, but people roll with it because it's a special place. Let's not be people who get complacent because we bought fair trade avocados, but we let a housing challenge price out all the poor, then the middle class, at which point the city will be left for the rich. Scarcity drives speculation and higher home costs. Let's work on our housing challenge by building enough housing options in an equitable way throughout the city. Bellingham's opportunities should be accessible to people of all incomes, cultures, and races. Let's be creative and think about how we can rein in out-of-control housing speculation by scaling up community land trusts, public housing, and other forms of decommodified housing. I also want to say I love immigrants.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to our reports from committee meetings from this afternoon. The first committee to report will be Public Works and Public Safety, and its chair is Mr. Terry Borneman.
Thank you, Michael. We had 2 items before the committee today. The first was a proposal to remove on-street parking from Orleans and Woburn Streets. The 2014 Bicycle Master Plan recommends removing on-street parking from one side of Orleans Street from Alabama Street north to Barclay Boulevard, and one side of Woburn Street from Alabama Street south to Iowa Street for the purpose of installing marked bike lanes on these arterial streets. Public Works has conducted parking surveys on these streets in November through December 2016 and documented extremely low parking utilization rates on the west side of each street. Public notice was mailed to all properties abutting each street. On February 14, 2017, the Transportation Commission reviewed this proposal and voted 7-0 to recommend approval to the City Council. This had come before us in a public hearing before. We had one person who had some problems with it, who owned a business on the west side of Orleans Street. Today, the committee asked Public Works whether there was a possible solution to the parking issue for this business. Public Works indicated that they could possibly switch from the west side to the east side of the street for the bicycle lane. The committee asked that this be set over until Public Works could contact property owners on the other side of the street. They felt rather than just move it, we needed to contact people again to let them know of this proposal and to see if there was any problems with that. Committee recommended that we set this over, and I so move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to set this back to committee. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
It passes 6-1.
Okay. The next was a resolution changing McKinsey to one-way westbound between 9th and 8th Street in Fairhaven. McKinsey Avenue between 8th and 9th Street is currently 2 ways with no sidewalks or other street improvements. The existing ROW width is not adequate to support the full suite of standard improvements identified for the Fairhaven commercial core. As development and public improvements are made, a balance of priorities is needed. Staff place priorities on 1, pedestrian amenities and sidewalk, 2, maximize on-street parking, both public and private, 3, minimize impact to critical habitats, 4, emergency vehicle access, and 5, minimize conflict points between pedestrians and vehicles. In order to meet these priorities, it is recommended that the street be limited to one-way traffic westbound. Staff had recommended adoption of this resolution. Today at the committee meeting, I'd asked staff whether this was a time-sensitive issue, because we'd received a number of inquiries from neighbors asking that we set it over for till our next meeting so that they could get some questions answered, so they'd have more time to talk with staff about this. Staff had indicated that that would work, so we move that this be set over to our next meeting, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion second to move this matter also back to committee for the next meeting. Any discussion of this motion? April.
In the committee, I know that the 3 main concerns were air, light, and noise for the traffic that will be coming along 8th. Did you all talk about any mitigation parts, or just going to send it back and then we'll have that conversation?
We're going to send it back to them, so, yeah.
Okay. Maybe when it
That was brought up, but, you know, it was We didn't discuss it because we'd moved to set it over for our next meeting.
Okay, because when that comes back, there you are. I'd like to, if that's been explored a little bit more, I'd like to hear more about that. Thank you.
I would comment that there were other issues besides those three that were brought up. Any further discussion?
One of the biggest
Gene.
issues is a lot of people are just now coming to grips with it. This has been on the books for a long, long time. It's been over a decade, I think over a decade, and now things are happening. Buildings are going up, and now the actual street is going to be changed. So it's just a natural way that people are going to come and ask questions, so we're going to give it a couple weeks and see where we go.
Any further discussion of the motion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0 to refer back to committee.
End of committee.
Thank you, Terry. The next committee
Ted,
is...
sorry.
Oh, sorry. Ted, comments on that?
Yeah, I apologize, Ted Carlson, Public Works. Actually, on the previous item, the first item, there were two projects that were considered Orleans and Woburn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I might have been asleep over there, but
You
we're
deserve
bringing Orleans back for further discussion after we reach out, but we're able to move forward with no parking on the west side of Woburn. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I believe that was the council's direction.
Yeah. I think
We didn't have a problem
We didn't have any problem
with
with
that.
Thank you. I
changed
just
my
wanted to
vote.
clarify. Thank you.
And you know what, Ted? I don't blame you if you were asleep.
To answer your question, April, I don't think it's necessary for you to change your vote, but so just for the record, April's vote was really with regard to one half of that motion, not the other half. Okay, we'll go on to the next committee. Thank you, Terry. The next committee is Finance and Personnel, whose chair is Councilor Roxanne Murphy.
Thank you, Council President Lillquist. We had two agenda items for Finance and Personnel. The first was an interlocal agreement between Bellingham Public Library and Whatcom County Rural Library District for mutual extension of borrowing privileges and services. This was recommended unanimously by the committee, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. It's to approve an interlocal agreement between the Bellingham Library and the Whatcom County Rural Library District. Any discussion or questions on this issue? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That passes unanimously, 7-0.
The second agenda item, the Finance Department provided a report on the 2016 financial review of the city. Some good news and some static news, and I encourage people to watch our committee's meeting from earlier today to get the full download. We also load presentations on this on our city website, cob.org. That was for information only. End of committee.
Thank you, Roxanne. The next committee is the Committee on Lake Whatcom Reservoir and Natural Resources, chaired by Dan Hamill.
Thanks, Michael. The committee had one item before us this afternoon that was an ordinance amending BMC 12.12.280 regarding aquatic invasive species. The committee voted to table the ordinance until staff can provide estimates or actual costs on off-site inspections, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. This is to table the ordinance until there's more information forthcoming on costs. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to table, let's signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
That passes 6-1. Thank you very much. End of your committee?
End of committee.
Okay, thanks, Dan. The next committee to report is Parks and Recreation. April Barker is the chair.
Okay, we had one item before the committee today. It was for North Youth Services. It's an organization that helps with some of our youth that are dealing with being unhoused. They have a We Grow garden program, which is a vocational service that they do. It really helps with a lot of the people that they work with to learn some basic job skills, some things that some of us might take for granted, but showing up, letting people know that you're not going to show up if you're sick. And it really gives those youth an opportunity to get a foothold and a resume. It's if you haven't ever been there, they typically do it right next to Northwest Youth Services, and you can go down. They'll have a latte day, and you can buy some of the vegetables. They also donate a lot of their vegetables to the food bank as well. So it's a valued program, and they're going to be building quite soon more housing for youth that are dealing with homelessness, and that's going to take up that garden space. So they worked with Parks, and they found a space at 1815 Ellis Street that was purchased previous in 2011 for a possible trade. And exploring gardens for Bellingham Food Bank, but neither of those came out to fruition. So the city decided that that might be a good site for them to have a temporary garden. And I think that is going to be really difficult because once we get a garden set in, we typically fall in love with it, and then it becomes permanent even though we said temporary. So I just want to make that point that this is a temporary situation, and Northwest Youth Services is aware of that. We made a motion because we certainly support the idea, but want to ensure that that property could stay available if there were trade purposes. I do realize that the Greenways Committee in their recent retreat, a couple of the members had suggested that that would be a priority to utilize that parcel for a trade so that we could get a trail along that creek corridor. Right now, those businesses aren't interested in that, but there could be potential for that later. So I just want to be respectful of the Greenways Committee as well. So with that, we made two motions. They were unanimously approved. One was the committee-approved use of the summary leasing procedure provided in BMC 4.88.05015B. And the second motion was committee authorized staff to negotiate and enter into a garden lease with Northwest Youth Services that is consistent with the lease arrangement described in the packet for 1815 Ellis Street. Those were unanimously approved, and that's the end of the committee.
So to understand that this is kind of an unusual situation, the council parent does not need to act to begin negotiations. So that is the end of your report.
I did it.
Yeah, you did it.
That's not your first one.
I only had two last year,
had a
I think,
committee
and this
on
is my first one of this year, so I'm just saying.
We're going to tune to an old pro now, Pinky Vargas. She's the Peter. You want to talk more on that?
I think you described it correctly. I think the motion was correct, but just so you're clear, the contract will be executed as well. That will not come back for council
Right.
approval.
Normally, the agreement might come back to the council, and this time it will not need to come back to the council. Okay.
Thank you, Peter. We missed you.
Okay. The next committee is Community Economic Development with Council Chair and old pro Pinky Vargas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not sure about the old.
Sorry.
We had one item in front of us today. We had an overview of the Community and Economic Development Division's 2017-2018 work plan. We had a presentation by Tara Sundin, who is the Planning and Community Development Manager. Presented on many different things this afternoon. I won't get into them all, but I will tell you major projects, implementing urban villages, and obviously there's different categories in all of these. Just to highlight a couple, under implementing urban villages, our streetscape replacement program, working with Public Works, and we are working on resurfacing the commercial street parking garage, getting better signage there and the accessibility of the washrooms, etc. Another thing is we are developing a city center recognition program, working through the mayor's office, and there will be a round of awards for those that have undertaken major efforts to improve downtown's built environment, so we do want to say thank you. Going forward on things like Kapow, which give us really great creative projects throughout our city. Some of the things that will be going in is a solar system demonstration and a large hopscotch game. Count me in. So affordable housing and social services, there are a couple of things that presented on there. They have a big agenda in regards to all the things we have to tackle in that area. And then economic development, I just wanted to note a couple of things on there. One is that Darby from Community and Planning Development is working with the Technology Alliance on a fiber analysis for the business environment. And also we started a food truck pilot, so you'll be seeing more food trucks downtown. And we hope you give us feedback on whether that is something you like and you want to see in our city. So that's just a little wrap up of the things, but this afternoon was a fuller presentation if anybody wants to look at those committee meetings. And a committee.
Thank you, Pinky. Next, we'll move to the Committee of the Whole. The Committee of the Whole had two items before us. The first one was a report on the Downtown Foot Patrol. Let me turn to my notes. Here we go. Right now, there's one officer who is on patrol in a marked car in the downtown area all day long, 24 hours a day, and there's also bicycle cops who patrol downtown during the daytime, but their patrol didn't start till 10 a.m. So a new program was started where a police officer on foot began patrol early in the morning to deal with some of the issues and outreach and education that become necessary early in the morning in Bellingham. That program has been seen as a great success and much appreciated by the businesses and people downtown, including the members of the Downtown Bellingham Partnership, which is a private nonprofit organization for promoting downtown. It was for information only, just a report, and the administration indicates that it'll continue that extra downtown foot patrol. The second item was a presentation by the Downtown Bellingham Partnership on its accomplishments in 2016 and also what it is hoping to do in 2017. The Executive Director, Alice Clark, was here to present. As Alice indicated, they get some of their funding from outside sources, including from contributions from businesses through the Main Street program and also direct financial support from the city. She gave a long presentation. It's hard to mention all things the partnership does with their volunteers and events, which include the Art Walk, the Night Market, Downtown Sounds, Games and Maritime Heritage Park, storefront improvement programs, outreach on downtown parking issues. Basically, they're a positive voice and advocate for downtown, and they also oversee the landscaping, beautification, and trash cleanup for the downtown. For more on what the Downtown Partnership is up to, you can go find their website or check out the presentation on the videotape earlier. That was also for information only. Next, approval of City Council meeting minutes. We have, I believe, 2 minutes, one from, let me find it again, March 13th, no, February 13th, and the second set from February 22nd.
Move approval.
Second.
Is that for both?
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion to approve both sets of minutes. I would like to draw attention on the February 13th minutes. I think there's just a wording change that would prevent confusion. On the presentation on the state of the court, it currently says the majority of the presentation discussed alternatives to jail programs the court has implemented. They're actually not alternatives to the jail programs the court has implemented. They're programs the court has implemented that are alternatives to jail. So can we just it sounds like they're alternatives to the programs, whereas the programs are the alternatives. So can we just move the words alternatives to jail to the end of that sentence so it says programs that the court has implemented as alternatives to jail? Does that make sense, Elizabeth? Thank you.
Yes, I will make those changes.
So I would move that wording change. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, all those who agree with that wording change signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now to the both sets of minutes as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Those pass
Did we
unanimously.
do the afternoon of the
I think we did that this
27th? Did we do
afternoon.
that this afternoon?
I think we did.
Did we? Boy, where was I? I must have. Ted, I was sleeping this afternoon. Don't feel bad.
Could someone check the tape?
No. Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Old and new business. Roxanne.
I just encourage people to check out the Whatcom Transportation Authority website on March 19th. Different services are going to be implemented through the Transportation Association, and that includes a new route and services that will connect people to Bellingham Airport. So it's just another opportunity for a transportation alternative that I hope people will look into and that can benefit our community.
April?
So tonight was our last night of the language exchange in the Birchwood neighborhood, and that was a grant that was from the Whatcom Community Foundation for Project Neighborly. It was an opportunity to connect people in places they might not normally connect. If you go to the Whatcom Community Foundation's website, you'll see all of the grantees that got grant money for that Project Neighborly, and there's still more of those going on. There's going to be I think it was for the Happy Valley neighborhood, there's a YIMBY incentive, so it's a yes in my backyard. They're going to be showing a movie and having discussion, and there's so many more throughout the county to really bring people together and start building more community. So please go look at the website, see if you like something on there. You can contact them and find out the information to connect with those people that are doing those programs. And I think they're going to do it again, so start thinking about how you want to connect your neighbors.
Anybody else? Okay, I'd like just to mention one more time, the City Council has scheduled its retreat for Saturday, March 25th in the morning from 9 a.m. to noon at Woodstock Farm. Anything else under old and new? Okay, then we'll go on to the executive session report. The executive session, we had 3 items scheduled, and a 4th one was added. The first one was labor negotiations with our Watcom Dispatchers Guild. We reviewed proposals. It was for information discussion only, no action was taken. The second matter was a potential litigation in claim number 2017-07. Staff provided information on a potential litigation matter. At this time, I would entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to enter into a settlement agreement with the following terms. Resolution of claim number 2017-07 for the payment of $40,443.81 to the claimant for water-related damages that resulted as a result of a pipe burst.
Second.
Well, I need a motion first.
Oh, I'm sorry. You just did, didn't you?
I said I would
Oh,
entertain.
I so move. I'm sorry.
Second.
Sorry. We have a motion and a second before us. Any further discussion of this action to approve the settlement claim? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0. The third matter, was also litigation related. It was in the matter of Haskell Corporation versus the City of Bellingham. Staff provided information on a litigation matter. At this time, I would entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to engage Mr. Ken Williams for outside legal services in this case in order to assist the city attorney's office in representing the city.
So move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second before us to approve the engagement of outside legal services. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That also passes 7-0. The final matter was potential litigation. Staff provided information on a potential litigation matter. It was for information and discussion only. No action was taken on that last matter, which I said was added this afternoon. It wasn't on the original agenda. Mayor's report. I see the mayor's representative here. Brian.
Brian Heinrich, sitting in for the mayor. You guys got busted down to the B team, so I apologize in advance. I want to clarify on the foot patrol, it's 2 officers, not 1.
Thank you.
That's all. And then the mayor is going to appoint, for your information, mayor is going to appoint Matthew Dennis to the Mayor's Neighborhood Advisory Commission. And then she's seeking your approval to appoint David Christensen to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Move approval.
Second. And he is historic.
We'll pass that on.
I say he will realize what I'm saying when he watches this on television. So it's okay.
All those in favor of reappointing the fossil David Christensen to the Historic Preservation Commission?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. You
Don't
did.
tell Dave I said that. His hair is darker than mine. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Christensen is unanimously approved for reappointment.
I'm sure he'll be pleased. And then the mayor's also looking for your approval to appoint Jim McCabe and Rebecca Craven to the Bellingham Public Library Board of Trustees.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to approve 2 new members to the Public Library Board of Trustees. Any discussion?
I wasn't aware we were.
April?
So there won't be any vacancies then? This will fill both of the vacancies, so we're not opening that back up? Just want to clarify. Okay.
Okay. All those in favor of appointing Mr. Jim McCabe and Ms. Rebecca Craven to the Library Board of Trustees signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Those appointments are approved unanimously. Consent agenda.
Approval.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That passes unanimously. The next item is final consideration of ordinances. Councilmember Borneman, did you have a motion?
Yes, I would ask that item 21518 be pulled from final consideration of ordinances and set over to the Committee of the Whole at our next meeting for discussion of the changes. There was a memo that was placed on third and final that outlined some changes that was made to the third and final that some of us just happened to realize, that was there. The memo was never sent out to us, so we weren't notified that changes were going to be made. Usually with third and finals, we assume, unless we are told there are going to be changes made or changes in language, that we assume it's as last presented to us. This wasn't the case this time, so we're asking that it be set over. There were a couple changes that Michael had asked that made and thought they were going to be put in that didn't get put in because of legal references or whatever, but we didn't know about it until, so we're asking that it be set over for third and final just to discuss the changes.
Second. I would speak to this motion. My concern is twofold, but the largest one is the matter of process. That something which is voted on and approved by the City Council coming forward for final reading, you know, if there's changes are made, they should be made by the council, and if we approve that, there would be no discussion, and the changes would be made in a certain sense without our usual process. So the process concerns, I think, are more important than the. I have substantive issues to talk about, but I think the motion really addresses process. Any further discussion on this motion? Roxanne.
Is this in any way a time-sensitive thing?
We are already out of compliance. They should have been passed a couple months ago.
NPDES is no joke.
Oh.
I'm not going to support it.
Pinky?
I'm just, are the changes that big of a deal that we have to delay it? Like what's the?
It's a process issue. This is not the way we have done it. It didn't come to us to discuss it or explain why the changes. The memo wasn't sent to us, and if the memo would have been sent out ahead of time, so we could have looked at it, or would have looked at it, and then been able to ask the questions, we could have dealt with it. But that wasn't the way it happened, so we're asking that it be delayed so that we can do it. It's once.
April?
Can you explain what happened?
Yeah, I'll defer to Peter on the second part. The first two items I think included in the memo were exactly as Councilmember Borneman mentioned, items that were that came up during the council presentation and just needed to be included into the ordinance for third and final. The second two, I think, were matters that legal identified as they went through the revisions again to try to make it clearer, and I don't know if Peter wants to expand on that.
Yeah, Peter Raffato, Legal Department. So when this was originally sent out, it was reviewed normal course by Alan Mariner. But this was a wide-ranging ordinance and involved some civil infraction, code enforcement type elements. I had Brian Anderson look at it, found what I thought were very minor changes. And I agree that if there's ever anything that is kind of beyond the scope of what was discussed or substantive anyway, I totally, and so I take responsibility for not flagging those two items in a more substantive earlier memo to council. But we can talk about them now. We can, you can wait, or you can, draw your own conclusions about that. But that's what it is from my perspective.
Any further discussion?
Michael? Just to
Ted.
speak to the, one of the council members asked if it was time sensitive. I think you responded correctly. These code revisions were supposed to be completed prior to the end of last year for many reasons, probably primarily the issues that Michael just touched on. It really was far-reaching in our code. We wanted to make sure that we got everything in the various titles of the BMC. We didn't meet that deadline. I will say we've been working with the Department of Ecology throughout the process. We notified them prior to the end of the year that we weren't going to make the deadline of the end of 2016. We actually we're trying to schedule a meeting with our permit manager with the Department of Ecology. She's aware that council took first and second action on the 27th. We want to make sure that council's comfortable with the process and what's in here. I certainly can sit down with Ecology. I don't think it's a major issue from a time perspective, given that we've been communicating with Ecology throughout the process. So I think it's more important that council's comfortable with the process.
Any further discussion? So the motion before us, Terry, I believe, is to refer back to the committee of the whole at our next meeting?
Yeah, that's what.
To discuss the changes? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
That passes 5-2. Thank you very much. I think that is the last item for today.
Who opposed?
Excuse me? It was Pinky and Roxanne.
Okay, thank you.
Voted no. Yeah. Any further business?
Well, just
Terry.
on one thing relating to this issue, if this comes up again, Because in the past, these things have happened, but they've gotten put on the committee of the whole before, the same day. If they would have been put on today, so we would have been notified about it, then the process, we would have just discussed it and then had our vote on third and final. And so it's that procedural part of it was my main part of it, that we be notified, because that, you know, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any further business before the City Council? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.